it goes back to who am I authentically? Who am I authentically? What are the things that I could talk about endlessly and authoritatively and genuinely? Content can feel very overwhelming for people. And so at times, agents can just copy what they see. And if we are creating the same content that we see other agents do, and we're using the same templates that everyone else is using, we very quickly become just part of the noise. It is one element of your business, and it creates a lot of trust, and it can accelerate your business, but not if you don't follow up and do the other things.
Welcome to Signature Buzz, your fast-paced weekly real estate sales meeting.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Signature Buzz. I am really excited for this episode. I've been waiting for it for the entire year. I'm honored to have with us today Kaylin Kelly. And yes, that name sounds familiar because Kaylin is related to me in a funny sort of way. We are cousins. And so, Kaylin, thank you so much for being here. I told everyone I come from a really impressive real estate family, and when they meet you, they'll believe that. So thank you for taking time to be on our show.
It's my pleasure. What a compliment. Thank you, Chris, for having me.
So for those that don't know you here in our Las Vegas or Utah markets or anywhere, tell us a little bit about yourself and a little bit about your family and a little bit about the business that you've set up.
Yeah, well, thank you. I guess we'll start with family. I have deep roots, as you mentioned, in real estate. My dad was an owner broker. Your dad is my dad's brother, so my uncle, cousins. And like you said, we come from deep roots in real estate. And I think we really come from deep roots in serving people and serving our community. And that was my inspiration as a little girl, really starting to see what my dad did in our community. Again, it wasn't just about selling a home. It was about helping people find a community, find the next chapter of their life. And it wasn't a transaction. It truly was a process where my dad came in and surrounded different people and families, and those people became part of our family. And so that's really what my foundation is. I grew up always wanting to be a real estate agent, always wanting to emulate him. I spent my Saturdays and Sundays answering the phone at his brokerage and really earned my stripes. I flipped through, if you remember the old books, I flipped through the listings. I calculated in my mind, what I would do, what I thought the selling price would be. So again, it's been sort of an obsession since I was a little girl. But I now live in Seattle and serve in the Seattle area, really serve all over the greater Seattle area. And although I am now a real estate agent, I didn't actually launch my career as a real estate agent. I spent 17 years in digital marketing and consulting before I finally came back to the dream that I had as a little girl and launched my real estate business in 2019.
So many similarities there and the horror stories that I remember as a kid of working in those real estate offices without pay.
Well, I will say there's some nostalgia. I think probably nostalgia has colored some of that, but yes, for sure. There was a little bit of trauma there as being a real estate kid.
So from my previous conversations with you, I think it's so incredible that you come from a media background and from a marketing background, especially going into a sales-based business. Tell us a little bit about your history there and how it led you to be so successful in real estate.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I think, again, going back to being a service-oriented business, when I was, in digital marketing and consulting, I came along big clients with really big challenges, and we had to take a step back alongside them and get a bigger, fuller picture about, what that campaign was trying to accomplish or what a messaging strategy was trying to accomplish, and really look at it holistically. And the same is true in real estate. And, when I decided that I was going to come back into real estate, just to kind of reflect a little bit on our childhood and maybe some of the experiences that agents currently are having or they had as kids, I really saw how much my dad's business pulled him away from the family. And so I was really looking at how can I show up in a really authentic way, like I did in my previous career, in a way that also allows me to scale. So how can I provide that really client-centric experience that is grounded in consulting and seeing the whole picture for them, and do it in a way that it doesn't require me to be, every Saturday or Sunday showing up and making calls, although I do that. But how can I have a presence that it's everlasting? And what I learned in digital marketing is that the best way to do that is obviously through digital marketing, right? And it's to leverage the platforms and social media and digital to sort of create a 24-hour storefront for you, if you will. So
Yeah, no, I love that.
yeah, I will say in one of the things that I really brought forward with me from that corporate experience, in addition to the digital marketing experience and sort of the strategy and things like that, is true, I would say, operational and organizational prowess and helping to lead clients through a process that is super overwhelming, and to have a communication strategy that is consistent and dependable for them, but also allows me to scale. It's to really understand, when previously when working with Microsoft, right, there's a level of expectation that they have around how you communicate and how you set up meetings and how you follow through and how you show up in the tough times. And so, again, I really had some real experiences in the corporate experience that really pushed me to understand that. And I've had some experiences in real estate that have really brought forward those skills to, again, communicate in a great way, in a client-centric way that helps clients feel like, okay, we're supported through every part of this process. And that kind of going back then to the media piece is that really authentically showing up is kind of in every part of your business, right? And that's something that again, I've kind of learned over those 17 years. It's a critical part of the business.
So it's so important when you said communication is the biggest struggle for most agents. I mean, as a broker, what I see a lot is when someone's upset with my agent, it usually always comes down to communication. I didn't understand, I didn't know, I didn't hear from them. So not only the fact of communicating is important, but I love that you said the way in which you communicate is important, that you're uniformed in it, that you're consistent in it, that you have processes in it. And I definitely notice that when I look at the brand that you've created for yourself, and I'll get to that in just a second. All of it is uniformed. It's on purpose. It has structure to it. Let's talk about that for just a second. How were you able? I mean, like, you come from a family of real estate. You saw how they did things back in the day when we had books, and now the technology age has come back to that.
Yeah.
You started from the beginning, from everything I saw, articulating a specific brand, a specific structure within your company. Like, you had the corporate brand you worked for, but you defined yourself and actually brought that out. How did you start that process?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think that's the most important step to any part of marketing. It's to really understand, one, who you are authentically, not who are you plus the agent next to you who does really great stuff, right? It's truly and uniquely, who am I? What can I bring that's unique to my clients? Because one of the things that's so great about this business is we all have great ways of showing up for our clients, and that's going to resonate for the right people. So it's really not trying to be someone else. It's looking straight, really looking at your own skill set and your own, really the things that you like to talk about and you like to do, and honing in on that. And then I think it's also looking, okay, well then who am I best positioned to serve? And how do they need me to show up? What are the types of challenges that they're going to have? And we can go, further into kind of a content strategy or into that strategy. But the first thing is to take a step back, to understand who you are, what you want to offer, and then how does that take shape in the world? For me, it was really understanding that I wanted to appeal to a more female buyer. Because again, that's sort of organic to me and natural to me. I also know through strategy and through some research that typically women are leading and guiding a lot of the real estate decisions. And when it comes to home, they are more actively searching. And so that was not only authentic, but strategic. I knew that I wanted to appeal to that type of buyer. And so that's really where it starts. Honing in, who are you? What do you want to offer? And then looking for ways to really, truly, authentically share that in the world.
So the research that you put into figuring that out is something I think a lot of agents just forget about.
Mhm.
Maybe they weren't trained in digital marketing like you were. Maybe they didn't understand large marketing projects. I mean, you're talking multi-million dollar marketing projects that you were part of. And before anyone spends that kind of money, they do a massive amount of research to target an audience and figure out who that is. And I think you're right. A lot of practitioners in our business who are small business owners spending a fortune. I mean, pretty much the majority of the dollars they earn trying to get in front of people, they have no
Yeah.
idea who they're trying to attract. And so, what a
Yeah.
great point. If you take nothing else from this, you've got to be strategic in your marketing dollars and where they go. You said something that was important. You defined who you were after, who you want to talk. I noticed in all of your marketing, it's about you, your family, home, the community in which you serve, things happening in that community, and how you and your family interact and relate to it. Talk more about that. Like, how did you make that come to life, and how much time did that take to start?
Yeah. Well, everything takes longer than you think it's going to, especially at the start. I will say again, it goes back to who am I authentically? Who am I authentically? What are the things that I could talk about endlessly and authoritatively and genuinely, right? And picking and choosing the things that I'm comfortable sharing, right? A lot of people talk about social media and say, I don't want to share my personal details. And you don't have to. You don't have to share anything that you don't want to. But a little peek is it can help create some connection and authenticity. I will say I do have, and I have I have a Trello board that I look at every day. I have 4 or 5 core pieces of content that I create, and I do that so that I'm spending my time well. I'm remembering who my target audience is, and I'm making sure I'm delivering messages consistently for them. And I'm also making sure that I'm showing up like a real human being, and that I'm getting and making time for the things that are important to me. I post a lot of soccer stuff, as you might know. I have kids that are soccer players. That goes, on different types in different ways. But I really do try to show up authentically. So one of the things I would say, and I just chatted with an agent about 2 weeks ago, is we're talking about her social strategy is to sit down and say, what are the things I could talk about every day? For her, it was gardening. It was renovating a craftsman style home that she has. It was her dogs. It was obviously real estate. So those become your pillars. Those become the things that you can authentically share with your clients. For me, it's community, it's family. And community is really local love. I love to highlight local businesses. I think that they're just the lifeblood of every community, and they're what makes our community special. And as small business owners ourselves, we know how hard those businesses are working, right? So I want to give them a little bit of love if I can. I have styled living, and then I talk. I'm starting to talk more about transition, life in transition, because again, that's reflective of who I am. I've gone through divorces. I've or divorced just one, just one. I've gone through a divorce. I've gone through career change, or a big career change. We are going through different life phases, and I'm starting to see that the women who are coming to me and asking me questions about real estate and asking me questions about life are also in those phases. So as much as I have a strategy and a content sort of, I have content pillars, I'm always looking at, well, what's resonating? What's
Yeah.
resonating with people? What are people asking me about? And then, shifting and adjusting as I need to.
I think that's so important because we forget the people that we follow are people in similar situations that we want to understand how they're dealing with it. And those life events are the reason we have business, right? If it wasn't for the fact that people have life going on, they would need to upsize and downsize and move and transition and go from one place to the other. And so by correlating those dots of your target audience going through phases of life, I mean, it's such a simple idea that's so hard to conquer, and you've done it. I think also agents put on this alter ego. Like, I'm not Superman. I need to show myself in real life, but I want them to think I'm Superman in the deal. But the whole point is that I'm showing who I am, and you've shown who you are in all of those pieces. So it's genuine. You are who. It's not your business card from 30 years ago. It's you, and it's your videos are real. Wow, I really believe in it. I think that's awesome. Let's talk a little bit about your video content. Like, you have a massive presence in video. I've seen that. How did you build that brand strategy? What did you do to start that process?
Okay. Well, for me, Again, going back to kind of who I was and how I wanted to show up, it really started to kick off in 2020 when we were stuck at home. And um, there was nothing to do but create video content. It started with being very, I will say, very cringy in front of the camera and wanting, just truly feeling like the only way that I can show up in this moment that we're all going through was to have what I would typically do is get coffee with a client. And that was not possible. Right. And so I had to start finding ways to communicate a message in at the time was direct to camera, and that was kind of where it started. What I find now is I'm trying to do more storytelling. I'm trying to bring people into my world more and connect in a more it's sort of real estate is almost the sub of what I'm trying to communicate. And one thing I will just say, Chris, is I think and it's just a little bit of a tangent. I hope it's okay. But I think that there's this, there is, to your point, this idea that when you show up on social media, you have to be someone different than who you are. But I think it's really important, for me, I know my stats. I know that 78% of my business comes from referrals or my sphere. And I know that 95% of those people have checked me out on Instagram and are following me on Instagram or are connected with me on Facebook or other places and engage with my content. So I know that if I show up as someone I'm not, that's going to alienate those people. That is not going to land in the right way. I also know that content can feel very overwhelming for people. And so at times agents can just copy what they see. Right. There's so many agents out there on social media, and good for all of us for starting to show up and get out there. But our clients know about 6 to 8 other agents, right? We know that. And I think that's actually increasing, unfortunately, but about 6 to 8 agents. And if we are creating the same content that we see other agents do, and we're using the same templates that everyone else is using, we very quickly become just part of the noise. They can't distinguish us from someone else. And so for me, again, when I'm sitting down to create content, I'm trying to think of something that is not out there already. I do at times get some inspiration from other things. But when I'm sitting down, I'm really thinking about, what do I need to communicate? I just did a home tour. I see a lot of home tours out there, and I think buyers love those, sellers, buyers, everyone loves to see inside homes. But I start to think about, how can I present this in a way that someone isn't going to scroll through, that they are excited to see the end, that it's a story about the house or it's a story about living there, and using different angles and using a way of really truly showing myself in some of the situations, but the home itself in a way that's engaging. And so I would say, when you sit down to create content, to think about content, think about it in a way that is storytelling, that is a way that you can bring someone along with you. And I'd also say, just like I'm doing now, you don't know this, but I have a video here and I have a video here. Everything is content, right? So I'm going to check on a listing. I'm sweeping up before a new buyer gets the keys. I'm videoing that. I'm walking my dog. I'm videoing that. I mean, it sounds ridiculous, and at some point it does feel ridiculous, but building a library of things that you can use. So when an idea comes in, again, we're looking for really original, unique ideas to you and your brand. So when something pops into my mind, I can go, oh, I've got 4 videos that I could potentially stitch together to create a story. And again,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love that you said that, because Brandon and I just participated in a video series, a couple of our other agents, and it was 2 or 3 hours of stock where they were just creating, can you walk upstairs? Can you walk downstairs? Can you walk outside? And I'm like, why are we doing this? Like, there's no value in my mind that I'm thinking. And then when they put together the plan, well, we're going to use pieces to show you in different situations as we tell the story. And it clicked for me. And now you saying that, like, how important is you conducting life in that and having that video just to put together the plan? People don't get that because it's not a production to them. It's one quick video. To you,
Right.
it's production. You are producing a plan and a plan of action that you have. I think that's really important. But let's get to the guts of one thing.
Yeah.
That you started in 2020 doing this. How long until you saw life in those videos where it turned into a deal that you can say, yep, that happened because I did the videos?
Honestly, I would love to tell you that it took a year, but it took about a month.
Wow.
It was very quick. But let's remember that my audience are people who know me, people who in some ways have already trusted me, and now I'm showing up in a way that reminds them. She's been showing up uniquely with content, but now, oh, video, right? And I was creating video pretty consistently. Again, I know it was cringy, but I got deals. In fact, 2020 was a great year for me in that way. And I conducted a lot of sales calls on video because of videos. I think that's unique. And I think we were in a very unique time. But I will say that if you show up consistently and you make it one element of your business, then and you're continuing to do the other things, the other fundamentals, then that will start to click. And I will say a lot of people ask, can I just do Instagram? Can I just do video? Can I just do this? There are some people who really do go all in on that, and it works well for them. What I found the hard way is that when I only focus on Instagram, I'm losing out on other deals. I had a few years ago someone that I thought we were very close, who knew I was an agent, who would never choose someone else, and chose another agent because I forgot really to do the basics and calling and asking her the right questions. I was relying on Instagram. So I learned that the hard way. It is one element of your business, and it creates a lot of trust, and it can accelerate your business, but not if you don't follow up and do the other things.
So when you started your videos, were you planning to cater the videos towards your database, like your SOI, or were you planning to cater it towards the public to gain new SOI? What was the immediate goal? And then where is it now?
Yeah, it has gone, and it is teetered back and forth. At first, I think in that moment when it was, I really need to start showing up, it was for my SOI. But quickly, my following started to grow a little bit, and I started to get more eyeballs on the content, and that was great and exciting for a while. In the last year, I would say I have pulled back on trying to get visibility for visibility's sake, and have really focused, again, because I know my numbers. I know that it's the people who know me right now. And hopefully I am bringing along some new people who are getting to know me. But the fastest, easiest transactions come from people who know and trust me or have been referred to me, and I can serve them the best way possible. So I'm now looking at Instagram as a way to almost have a real-time CRM. I'm looking at these people as, these are my real human people that are interacting with me and I'm interacting with. If I can bring along other people, great. But I'm really not looking to be, quite frankly, a real estate influencer. And I've talked to a lot of real estate influencers. And one thing I've learned is that likes does not equal deals or money. And not getting likes does not equal it equals residence in some ways. Yes. Because just because someone doesn't like a video doesn't mean they are not being impacted by that video. And those are the things that I've had to remind myself as I've changed my strategy. It's not about a following or a huge engagement number. It's about how many people DM me after they see that video, or how many people reach out to me and say, hey, I think you're this person. Can you help me with? Those are the real conversations. So
yeah, I like that the point of credibility. Like, to me, video at one point gave credibility to the people that are on it, because you're out making that presentation, you're confirming your position, you're showing who you are. I remember when I was a kid, if you got on TV for any reason, it was like, oh my God, you're on TV. That's so cool. Blah, 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 blah. Now it's everywhere. Like, you can get on TV really easily for good or bad.
Yeah.
But now with video, the credibility of consistency of you being there shows the public that, wow, you really do a lot of business. Wow, you really do know these things. You really have listed these houses. And so it's kind of like you've already handled the objection and the presentation together. And now you have the client that's like, yeah, why wouldn't I use you? You're the best.
Yeah.
And
That's
they
a
don't
great.
really know you yet. They just know what they've seen and they see it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so uh, I've trained a lot of agents, and the thing I've always said is that you have to be present with your database. You have to communicate with them. You have to do the phone calls that no one wants to do, and the text messages, and the emails, and birthday cards, and those things. And you kind of confirm that point that video is the air mill that kind of solidifies all of it together. So if you can make these things happen, then you have an even better chance of getting business from it. Is that what you found for sure?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I will say, what a great thing, like I said, is that this business can be different for everyone, right? Some people love cold calling, some people love door knocking. I don't know who they are, but I hear that people do like doing that. For me, it is really a mix of, to your point, understanding my CRM, my database, my people, and then showing up and having a consistent way to do that. And a lot of times, I'm using social media when there have been times in my social media journey where I'm not showing up that much on camera, but I'm engaging a lot with my clients and with the things that they like. And that gives me a reason to follow up with them, whether that's a DM, whether that's a text. Sometimes that's a call if it's a big life moment, or, sometimes they're, send flowers, whatever it might be, but it gives you a way to have a real time understanding of what's going on for someone. And when you mix that into your business, I think that it just accelerates everything that you can do and every way that you can show up for them.
So let's talk about platforms and video engagement. So you kind of mentioned a few times Instagram.
Yeah.
How is your platform set up, or better yet, how would you suggest someone set up? I've heard a lot of people say, launch from YouTube, put everywhere else. I've heard people say, no, just stick with what you're good at. What's your suggestion there? What do you feel?
Yeah, I know there are a lot of different thoughts and strategies around this. For me, and I again, I'm not sure the level of expertise or what your agents are comfortable doing, but I would say start with what you're comfortable with. Start with something that you are going to learn to like. Let's just say that, because again, getting in front of the camera and doing things like that, there is a learning curve there. So choose something where you feel like you can get this into the mix weekly for yourself. I think weekly is important. So I would say Instagram. I would say maybe Facebook. Although that there's some different strategies around Facebook versus an Instagram presence. For me, I stay on Instagram and I build. I have a newsletter that is really popular that I get a lot of traction on, and I have my website, and then I do have a blog that gets a lot of traction, and I kind of move content back and forth and certainly repurpose as much as I can. And I also have YouTube. I would say that this year for me, it is probably moving more towards creating YouTube content as I'm doing more storytelling and more vlog type content. But Instagram for me has been the anchor. I've tried TikTok. I've tried, different threads, just different platforms. And again, in talking with some of the people who are really well known as real estate influencers, though TikTok hasn't necessarily meant big dollars for them. And so for me, I really like showing up on Instagram. It converts well for me. I'm going to stay here. I'm going to build here. I do use TikTok for inspiration, and I think it's good to know everything. I would also say, Chris, that I think we also need to have an understanding that we don't own Instagram. Instagram could go away tomorrow. Mm-hmm. So if we're not moving our clients to a newsletter or to a blog or to another piece of content or platform that we own and can control, then we are putting our business at risk. So it's also, that is just something to think about for client or for your group of agents, is how am I controlling where I'm interacting and then moving them to a place where I have a little bit more control, whether that's through a newsletter or a blog or something like that.
That's a huge foundational point that, and I never even thought about it that way, but I noticed with you that I receive a newsletter from you, which is absolutely fantastic. I read your last one. I don't read everyone's newsletters, I'll be honest, but I read yours because it called out about things in your community, not about, oh, I'm really good at selling houses. And it was made by you. You could tell you wrote an article about a restaurant in your community, and you told us about the meal. Like, you didn't tell me about the restaurant was founded, blah, 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 blah. You told me about the experience and what you had and what went good with this or that. And I think that that's what agents are too lazy in some cases to do, but it creates all the value of why someone's going to follow it. I mean, I'm waiting to tune in to the next one. You have a subscriber for life here for that. And then I noticed your videos correlate to the newsletter, like you just said. They're branded well. They're incredibly well done, and I want to find out how you do it so well. And then I went to your website and I checked the content there, and it all correlates together to tell me there's consistency. This isn't made up. This is all real. Like you hired a marketing company to do all of it together, but it's you. So how did you make that happen? How do you keep the personal, the brand, your identity as an agent? How do you streamline that and make it all come together? Do you like plan it out? Do you have a production studio? Do you have a staff?
I do plan it out. I do plan it out. And I use Trello, and I think I might be able to share a board with you as an example. And I also have a doc that I will give you that you can share with your agents that can kind of go through the content planning and how to work through your week essentially to create content while also running a business. Because let's remember that this is a small portion of actually being really good at our jobs. So that's the main part. So how does this fit in? So yeah, it goes, Chris, it really truly goes back to understanding who I am, understanding the content and sort of the messaging strategy that I have. I have a mission statement. I have who I am, who I resonate with, my target clients, my target areas, and then the things that I consistently talk about, which are my messaging pillars. And then again, I don't have someone else writing that content for me. I craft it myself. So there's some time involved in that, right? But I found that equals more resonance because people know it's me. You can tell it isn't you. And again, I kind of hearing it now, if I was an agent that was just getting started with social media, I would hear all this and I would start to get very overwhelmed. So one thing I will say is that focus on the basics. Focus on the 3 or 4 things that you like to talk about, that you could stand next to someone at the soccer field and talk about gardening, whatever it might be, soccer, right? And start thinking about ways that you can show up authentically that way. Doesn't have to be high produced videos. It doesn't have to be, some elaborate storytelling. Just has to be consistent. And the more consistently you do it, the more comfortable you'll be and the more you'll start to shape your story. But every time I sit down to create a piece of content, it's what am I trying to accomplish? Who am I talking to? And then I take that and it goes, okay, here's the Instagram post. Here's the newsletter post or the newsletter. And then here's the blog post. And then I usually text people. So, Chris, when I'm sending that newsletter out, I'm texting my clients to say, just sent my newsletter, check out, IPA, Cabernets and IPAs. I just sent you a gift card for $25. Those are, like my top referrals. I'll send them a $25 gift card to that. Or I'll say, hey, I'm going to do a happy hour. Let's meet there. So for me, it's all circling around and knitting together.
And what a great thing, because you're reinforcing the community and what you work and the businesses there. I mean, like that, I'm a big fan of leverage. And that is the best scenario of leverage I could think of in that situation. Because I'd go to that bar anyway.
Exactly. Me too.
You told me a while back, and several years ago, we did a video, I believe it was for my real estate team, where you shared some of your marketing strategy. And everyone just kind of sat there with their mouth open, like, oh my God, like this is the answer, right? And you had mentioned that you produce content usually a month out in some cases so that it's ready to launch and you're not behind the 8 ball trying to get it done. And that reminded me kind of like what a newsroom would do. They put things on the board and actually plan out the episodes and what's going to be on it, and like a TV guide would, right? We know what's going to be on TV, so it's easier to strategize around it. What tips and tricks do you have for agents to be able to do that same thing?
Yeah, great question. Definitely, I would say batch your content. That's what you're talking about, whether it's a month in advance or it's a week in advance. Give yourself more time rather than less, is what I will say. But I sit down again, going back to, what am I trying to accomplish? And I highlight the 5 things I want to talk about that month. Or the things I know are coming up. We have a festival coming up in Snohomish this summer that I'm going to be doing some content for. So I'm planning that. That way, I can identify one day on my calendar, sometimes 2, where I know, okay, I'm in Edmonds for half the day and I've got to get 3 of these types of videos done. And I'm going to be, previewing home. So I'm going to grab some of this type of content. It's really, just planning those messages for the next month. I will say Instagram moves so quickly, and the pace of our industry right now is moving so quickly with different types of news cycles. So it's okay to be kind of shooting the day of. That totally makes sense as well. But give yourself enough time, have a plan. The times that I have wasted my own dang time is when I've just gone out and tried to be inspired. And sometimes that happens. Sometimes you're sitting at a coffee shop or you're out walking with a friend and you get inspired by something. But it's good to have a strategy and a plan so that you know that you're going to get what you need and you can use your time wisely. I would also say, just exactly like you were talking about, get a few people together and do a content day. So you're not fiddling with your, tripod in a public place and embarrassing yourself. Bring a few people along, have some ideas of what you might want to capture, whether it's walking down the street or ordering coffee or whatever the story is that you'd like to share, so that you're doing it intentionally or doing it with other people. I think that can make a big difference. And it can also alleviate some of the awkwardness that you might feel.
Now, I'm sure, like doing all of the videos that you've done and all the content pieces that you've done, there has to have been several that just exploded and you had amazing feedback on, and they exceeded even your expectations of what would happen. Give us some examples of that and what occurred.
Yeah. There's been a few that have gotten, 20,000 views and things like that. There's 2, and they're very different. One is, again, kind of in those pandemic times or in those, 2020, where emotions were raw and we were all really raw. And it was an inspirational from the cuff. I just felt like I needed to say something. And I turned on my camera and I said, "You're amazing. You can do this." It was just from the heart. And that really resonated. Thankfully, it really resonated. And not only just in views, but in the DMs that I got, in the continual DMs that I get with that specific video. There's probably, every few weeks I get someone who says, "Hey, just want to let you know this video really made a difference for me," or "You're someone I love following because I feel good when I come to your page." To me, that's amazing.
Wow.
Um,
That is
the other was a highly produced video. No joke. It was, I hired a production crew and they came to our house and we told the story and the kids played in the back and we went to Edmonds and we had dinner and it was just beautiful. It was highly produced. Very similar views. One higher views on YouTube, which was the highly produced,
what
but different success. One was, I'm a professional. This is my life story. This is why I care and who I am and my family. Not as many DMs on that one. Not as many continual life giving and affirming DMs on that very expensive video, which I'm very glad that I did.
Yeah.
And I send that. It's part of the package I send to clients when I'm introducing myself to a new lead, someone who's reached out. I say, these are the 4 videos you should check out. I can't wait to meet you. Here's a little bit more about who I am and what I do. And that's definitely a part of it. The other video, though, took me, I don't know, it was basically free, right? So again, I would just encourage us as agents to show up authentically as who we are Maybe you're not someone who wants to talk inspirationally. I'm often not either, but come to your sphere and your database as a whole person, as who you are. That's what will resonate.
I don't believe I made this up because this story couldn't be made up. I remember when you were speaking to us, you were talking about a listing that you were going to be taking in a few months. And you went to the house and planted flowers, like tulips or something like that, in the front yard and videoed the occurrence of what you were doing for your clients so that when the listing photos were going to be taken, the home looked even more amazing than it already did with the flowers blooming. You did tell me that story, right? I didn't make that up in my head.
Something similar to that. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
tell me that story.
But one thing I will say, there's two really great parts about that. One is your clients are seeing you invest in their home. And when those tulips are starting to bloom, or those flowers, more tulips, but when they start to bloom, they remember who put those in, right? The second is, what a great story to tell. What a great piece of content to talk about and a behind the scenes, right? People love that. People love as well, and I love it, a before and an after. Right now state and a future state. That's so exciting and interesting. And yeah, those types of things. I mean, that's a special thing for a client. And during that time, I think especially those clients really needed something like that to get them to the finish line and to encourage them to get this house ready for sale.
It kept hitting me in my mind. I'm like, how could they list with somebody else? Like I'd have to go step on the flowers or things like that. Right? Let's talk about videos that didn't do so well. Like when everyone talks about content, what content have you said, I'm not doing that anymore. Like that didn't work. That didn't resonate. Waste of time.
Mm-hmm. For me, I think right now, at least, it's straight to camera it's straight to camera that feels too produced. What I noticed is that I had a few of those. Some of them did okay, but I wasn't comfortable with the way I was filming them. And I don't think they really resonated. They didn't get a lot of engagement. There wasn't a lot of likes, and I didn't get any DMs. So for me, the uncomfortability of that didn't equal something I want to continue. I am going to start doing a flavor of that, but the direct to camera for me, it just didn't work. And it works great for a lot of people. It really does. And those people should continue doing it because I love to watch that. But again, just kind of going back to accepting what's authentically you and not trying to emulate someone else just because you think you're supposed to. I just realized those aren't me right now. So I'm not going to do those.
Okay. So I'm going to go in a different direction a little bit. Probably about 6 episodes ago, we have an agent in Salt Lake, Scott Steele, who did, YouTube was his foundational marketing platform. For him, it was 18 months. It was 18 months of banging his head against the wall doing videos before it really took off. And now he kind of has that, I'm a local celebrity, but people can't really place why, because they see the videos all the time and they live in his community and they're interacting around him. They're at the same grocery store and restaurant. I've got to believe with the quality and quantity of the amount of videos you've done, do you have that local celebrity influence now in your area? Like they see you're like, I know her from somewhere. Has that happened to you?
It has happened to my kids' great embarrassment. And it always feels, it's so great to meet people out in the community when they know your name and they say, I've had quite a few people say, I never knew about this shop until you started talking about it. And now it's the place I go every time I need flowers, or it's the place I get my cards or whatever it might be. And that I love that. We also, for a short time, not anymore, we haven't been there for a while, but we got free burgers at a burger place that we did a burger video for, and they got a lot of views and a lot of engagement. And so I definitely had my share of milkshakes after that. But yeah, it's fun. I will say it also does put a little bit of pressure on, okay, when I go to the grocery store, I have to make sure that I'm in the right mindset, or, I'm dressed like I want, if someone wants to say hello, I'm not embarrassed.
I love it. And I do see that, as you go through that process, a team is important, a support team. And I was on your website and I noticed some of your information about how you structure your team. So for the people listening, tell us a little bit about your actual business. Like what are, your numbers, what kind of are your business goals for it? And what structure do you have? Do you have buyer's agents, support staff? It's you by yourself and an assistant. How does that look?
Yeah. So right now, 2025 feels like a big year for me where I am trying, I'm understanding and accepting and really loving where I am, but I know that I've got some bigger goals that do include more of a team. Right now, I have a marketing operations person that really works for First and Main, which is my brokerage, and they come in to support and help with some of the marketing operations things, right? Like helping with flyers and some of those things that maybe we don't necessarily need to spend our own unique time on and creativity. And then also a transaction coordinator. And I think that is one of the best additions to the business. And she's incredible. She's smart. She's a licensed agent. We work very closely. So I'm never out of touch. It's not something where I just hand over the transaction and never talk to those clients again. We're in lockstep on everything. But it does mean that I can scale. It does mean I can take a content day and know that she's on top of it and know that my clients trust her, that I trust her, and that everything's going to move forward. I did have a transaction coordinator before who was a independent contractor who we hired through a different business. She owned her own business and she was phenomenal. But I found that it was really important for that person to be on my team with the same email address, with the same presence, with the same communication style that was dedicated to my clients, so that those clients didn't feel like, oh, we got excited with Kaylin and she closed, our house is under contract or we're pending. And now there's a completely different communication style. We're not even sure who this person is, right? So for me, again, even with that marketing operations person who is phenomenal, it's creating a real kind of coming around the clients to make sure they have everything they need. It feels like Kaylin. It's not Kaylin and 2 people or 3 people. So that's been really important for me. And I will say, Chris, I would encourage your agents. Part of my communications process and strategy is that I have templates for every single part of the transaction. When they go under contract, when we're looking at multiple offers, every single scenario has an email template or a content template. And I'm uniquely, updating those and creating it and making sure it resonates with whomever we're working with at that moment. But there's consistency. So
yeah, I think the important thing,
yeah.
the important thing you just said was everything is templated and has a story behind it. But did I hear you also say that you have content pieces that you've recorded that back up the templates?
I'm in the process of doing that. Some of my emails are recorded where I'll say, "Congratulations! I'm so excited you're closed," or whatever it might be. But we have an email templates for every single thing.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
So,
That really
scalability.
process.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so if you were to have to relocate to Las Vegas, which I know a good realtor, if you were starting over again, knowing what you know now after going through this as much as you have and understanding it, your history and the business, what initial first steps would you take to set up a business and to recreate your brand there?
Well, it would change who I'm talking to. First of all, I would talk to people who are relocating, and I would take them along every single point of my relocation learnings. How do you find the right house? What are the different neighborhoods? Of course, we all talk about that, but from the perspective of someone who has never lived in Las Vegas, what to know about the temperatures, what to know, what's the peak time? Do you really go to the Strip as much as people might assume, right? The whole process and journey of learning a new city. That's what I would take someone along with me. And then I would also get really heavily invested in organizations. I'm a handful on a board of a handful of organizations here locally. Again, so getting into the community, participating, making yourself visible, that would certainly be one of the things that I would do. But I would take whomever, my new viewers along on a journey with me. And I would do it every single day. because when you're starting something new, you've got to do it consistently at high volume.
If nothing else gets said, that hit me really hard, because pulling back that curtain of the process. I mean, it's a complete relationship with someone who's going through it. So you have a connection point, and that's why it's so important our business to have a connection point. But like, I could understand an entire group of people in that scenario wanting someone to help them through it, and I could think of 5 or 6 different scenarios where you could lead through the same thing. I just got into real estate. How is the process? I just left my other career and I'm starting this. Like, wow, I moved into a new neighborhood and here's what it is like moving and being in that neighborhood. Like, it makes a lot of sense now when you say it. Why didn't I ever think about that before? With the content pieces and stuff, the support pieces, you said, I join organizations and groups, and I noticed on your website you actually have a whole part dedicated to charitable organizations and places you give your time. Have you utilized those for your business as well? They're like getting the air support, and now you're starting to get value while you're not doing it for that. You're doing it to help. But is that happening?
For sure. That definitely happens. That definitely happens. But you're right. It's not intended that way. But those organizations are truly I'm an extension of them, and they're an extension of me. And so you get to be around people with similar values, and they see, oh, Kaylin's really good at this. She does what she says she's going to do, right? She's participating, entirely with this organization out of really, good intentions, not to just be a salesperson. You have to be very careful in that. But absolutely, of course that happens. Yeah.
So, a couple of final things I'd like to just touch on if we could. You kind of mentioned that you do a lot for your A clients, your database. Give us some insight to some of the great things that have worked that you have gotten residual rewards from your group.
Yeah. I definitely think connecting, connecting some of the newsletter content, because I do know that they read that. I also know that that is a really good, anchor point for my business. If Instagram did go away, they're on the newsletter. I connect the newsletter to them specifically. I call them, I text them. If I am featuring a local community, our community business, I'll do a gift certificate. I'll send them a little teeny flower from the flower shop, or a little arrangement, just something like that. And these are people, when you look at the A's, the people that are on this list for me are the people who are consistently delivering me business over and over.
How big is the list?
It's about 5 people right now, but because I've stepped up the spend, right? I'm stepping up there's, and I would say we all segment our list differently. For me, that's kind of the A++ group. There's other people who send me business and are always, great. There's just a little extra care that you give someone who is constantly shouting your praises. And I will say, actually, this is a great story, Chris. So the 2 people who are on this list are sisters. There's a few others, but 2 people on this list are sisters. One of them found me through an Instagram video, called me right away, said, we're looking at that house you did a video on. Can you meet? Can you talk on the phone really quickly? We jumped on the phone, instant resonance. She'd seen all my videos already. She knew who I was. We went to see that house. It wasn't right for her, but we started working together. She became a client. Before she purchased her house, or before she purchased her new house, she introduced me to her sister and her sister's family, who were relocating to Seattle. We had a great meeting, bought a fantastic home for them, which I found off market. And they have now referred me to their other sister-in-law, or their sister-in-law, their other friend. Oh, my light went out. Their mother-in-law. I mean, it is just a family process and a family affair, essentially. And then their colleagues and their coworkers. And I mean, really, I feel so grateful that I made that video. It wasn't one of my best. It wasn't. And in fact, I'm not even sure it's on my Instagram anymore. But that is the power of video, driving someone to you, creating a unique and true connection with someone, taking it offline, and doing a really good job in your business. And those are the people that, they get flowers, they get big, wine and flowers for Christmas. They get, special extra stuff.
I have the same group, and it's only maybe about 8 people that I get a huge chunk of business from every year because it's funny. My mom is a real estate agent as well. Her sister has sent me more referrals than she sent my mom. And so she was one of those many years till my mom told her to stop. But she was a nurse. She'd like berate doctors and nurses. I'm thinking of these poor patients that aren't surviving. And she's berating these doctors and nurses. You got to give that deal to Chris. You got to call Chris. There are those people that will go to battle for you every day. And they deserve that. They deserve that kind of love and attention. And so you got my brain spinning on all the things that I need to get back to that make that difference on a referral business. Let's talk about out of market. You do a big referral business outside of your marketplace with agents. How do you connect them? I know you sent me your newsletter and I read it. You get all my referrals for the area. How do you get with others throughout the marketplace?
Yeah, as you may know, I was part of Compass for about 5 years. I'm a great Compass network there. I have real strong connections in Arizona, California, and New York. And so I get, connections there. And I think part of that is same strategy with agents in that connection is important, authenticity is important. And I'm glad that you get the newsletter because I was just thinking, gosh, now that I'm thinking about it right here in this moment, I need to be doing more for that. I do have, a cadence of reaching out and making sure that those people are still feeling love from me. And I think, offering value. What's the market doing? But, unless you have a client that's moving to this specific area, the market's not that important. What could be important? I often am sending social media tips. That I just said that I spoke to someone a few weeks ago about social media. She's an agent in a different market, and she and I get on the phone and I tell her what I think's working, and I look at her Instagram and I say, "Hey, this is what I think you should do." And she says, "Great." She sends me, people who want to move this way. So it's really, about connection and creating value.
Well, every time I talk with you, I get things that I need to change and improve in my business. And so thank you for sharing with us and going through this and taking the time to do it. I know it's a lot leading up to it. Any final thoughts or ideas you'd like to share with the audience of things they should be thinking of or doing in their business?
Yeah, I will. I'll give you a doc. It's not, overly designed or anything like that, but it's a guide where I think, agents can just start to think about creating content and planning it out in a way that doesn't become overwhelming. And then there is kind of a next step to how do you become, more fluent with it and more comfortable. The other thing I would say is we hear this all the time, and I know it sounds so cliche. Just start, just create something. You really do have to get past that level of that feeling of being uncomfortable. I'm still uncomfortable. I still don't like the way I look on video. I still don't like the way I sound, but I'm doing it. And I'm going to start doing it more and more because I'm just reaffirming to myself as I'm doing it again. This is really truly something that resonates with people, and I would encourage you to do that. The other thing I would say is just be who you are, because again, that's what people are resonating with already in your business. Do what you already do so well and just bring that to life and add some of the layers. Add a little bit of your personality, add a little bit of maybe fishing if you love fishing. Those are the types of things that people do resonate with. We have someone in our office who is a hockey player. Every time he posts about hockey, he gets so many comments and he gets DMs about, "Hey, I want to reach out to you about X, Y, and Z deal," or whatever it might be. Doesn't get a lot of comments on, what you should know about selling your house. So those are important. That's really important. But it is that personal piece that really brings you to life as a person, and I think are really important for business. So just show up as who you are.
I love it. Be genuine. If someone wanted to get in touch with you, what's your email address for them?
It's light going off again. Kaylin at KaylinKelly.com. And then Instagram is the same, at Kaylin Kelly.
Well, thank you again. We'll be sure to upload that piece when I get it from you to the video. And thank you again so much for your time. And it was just enjoyable as could be. And like Brandon would always say to all of you, we're always here reaffirming your success. Thanks for tuning in.
Thanks, Chris. Talk to you soon.